Hello and welcome to the Martini Shot. Today we'll be reviewing Obsession and making a bittersweet cocktail called the One Wish Willow. I can't promise this thing will make your dreams come true, but a little alcohol never hurts the believing process. In a shaker, you're going to need half an ounce of black cherry syrup, 3/4 ounces of lemon juice, 3/4 ounces of Amaro, an herbal liqueur, and 1.5 ounces of sloe gin, which is a sweeter, lower ABV version of gin. Add ice and shake thoroughly, then strain the cocktail into a coupe glass. Now for the garnish, we're going to be making a lemon twist heart, which you can do by taking a lemon wheel and cutting out the flesh, leaving the pith if possible. Cut it so it makes one long peel, and then you're going to cut a line down the middle and shave off the edges of one end to make your heart's point. From there, you can manipulate it and stick it on the rim. It's a lot harder than it looks, evident by my so-so heart, so don't feel bad if you don't get it on the first try. But with or without the garnish, now you have a One Wish Willow. Now that we have our drink, let's get right into the review. On paper, Obsession sounds like the exact kind of Blumhouse movie I've been bitching about for years now. Another simple horror movie built around one creepy object, another gimmick stretched into a feature-length story that somehow still makes a mountain of money. But there was one thing that immediately made this stand out. If you saw Milk and Cereal, then you already know Curry Barker has a really clear sense of style and tone. He's part of the growing wave of YouTubers making the jump into filmmaking alongside people like the Philippou brothers, Chris Stuckman, and Markiplier. And honestly, not everybody pulls that transition off. So when I saw the premise and the Blumhouse logo attached to it, I was definitely a little skeptical. But Obsession proves something I've believed in for a while now. A movie doesn't have to reinvent the wheel to work. It just has to find a new way to use it. And this movie takes that wheel and throws it directly at your face. This is absolutely one of the biggest feel-bad movies of the year, and it's better because of it. The setup is basically a monkey's paw story, but the film really commits to how ugly and uncomfortable that kind of premise can become without tipping over into pure torture porn territory. There's actually a surprising amount of emotional weight here too. Not enough to turn the movie into some giant social commentary piece, but enough to make everything feel grounded even while the film gets completely insane. A huge part of that comes from the performances by Michael Johnston and Indy Navarrete. Both of them fully commit to characters who feel believable while also becoming completely unhinged. On top of that, the atmosphere and direction give real energy to a story that could have easily felt generic. Barker knows how to stage scenes in a way that keeps you tense the entire time. There's this constant feeling that everything is about to collapse in on itself, and even when the movie gets funny, that dread never really goes away. Honestly, this is easily one of the best horror movies to come out of 2026, and if I'm sitting here praising a Blumhouse movie this much, then clearly it's doing something right. A lot of people are already talking about Indy Navarette's performance as Nikki, and deservedly so, but I also want to give Michael Johnston a ton of credit as Bear. Not just because his name makes up 2/3 of my name, but because he does an absolutely tremendous job at capturing a character that easily could have been made out to be a flat, obvious stereotype. Bear isn't written as this cartoonishly bitter incel stereotype. He's just a guy stuck on feelings he's never been able to express to someone he's known forever. The hesitation pushes him toward using the One Wish Willow to force Nikki into loving him, and that's what makes the character interesting. There's enough honesty there to understand him on some level, but the movie never excuses what he does. The second he chooses the easy way out and ignores every obvious warning sign, he crosses a line. Everything that happens afterwards is completely his fault because he's trying to strip away somebody else's agency for his own happiness. But the movie handles that idea carefully enough that it never feels exaggerated or preachy. Johnston plays the role with enough vulnerability to make the audience uncomfortable about how much they relate to him, and I think that balance is a huge part of why the movie works. Then there's Nikki, who basically transforms from dream girl to full-on nightmare because of somebody else's selfishness. One of the smartest things the movie does is constantly remind you that she's the victim here, even while she's terrifying everybody around her and doing horrific things. She's scary, she's unpredictable, and sometimes she's even weirdly funny, but there's still this underlying sadness to the character that stops her from feeling like a pure monster. Navarrete is honestly incredible here. The physical performance alone is insane. The way she twists her expressions and shifts her voice feels genuinely unsettling without looking too forced. She always seems to know the exact level of intensity each scene needs, and visually the movie presents her in a really effective way too. A lot of scenes either hide parts of her face or drown her in darkness so you can barely catch her eyes, which not only looks creepy as hell, but also reinforces the idea that her identity is being erased and reshaped into somebody else's fantasy. I wouldn't fully call Obsession a horror comedy, but there were definitely moments where I laughed almost as much as I cringed. And honestly, I think that comes from Barker's background online. Like the Philippa brothers, he clearly understands modern internet humor and how younger audiences talk to each other. That sense of humor gives the movie a strong identity without ruining the horror side of it. Now, the movie does rely on a few loud jump scares here and there, and some of them feel a little cheap, but they're easier to forgive because the tension underneath them is so strong. The movie constantly uses shadows, weird movements, and empty spaces to keep you anxious. Your eyes are always scanning the background looking for something terrible to happen. That mix of humor and dread keeps the movie engaging the whole way through. It never really lets you relax, and it definitely never pretends things are going to turn out okay. This is one of those movies that leaves you feeling kinda sick afterwards, but in the best way possible. The story itself isn't wildly original, and structurally it's actually pretty straightforward, but the execution gives it real personality. That's the difference. Obsession doesn't try to act smarter than the audience or hide behind fake depth. It just takes a familiar concept and injects actual style and perspective into it, which honestly feels like something Blumhouse should have been aiming for years ago. You can still make great horror on a budget, but it still takes genuine talent to elevate material like this and make people care. Curry Barker clearly has that talent. He knows how to make something disturbing, funny, sad, and tense all at once without losing control of the tone. And hopefully the success of movies like this pushes studios towards giving more distinct filmmakers the chance to put their own stamp on familiar ideas. So yeah, I had a great time with Obsession, even though the movie also made me feel terrible. It's funny, creepy, upsetting, and surprisingly emotional because the characters actually feel human underneath all the chaos. At the same time, it still embraces how weird and ridiculous its premise is without undercutting the heavier moments. It's uncomfortable in a way that feels intentional, and it's not afraid to sit with ideas that most horror movies would rather simplify. Let this be a reminder that the worst thing she can do is say no, and the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can avoid her doing something much worse. For my rating, I'm giving this film 4 suspicious sandwiches out of 5. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Martini Shot. If you saw Obsession, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. And if you like what you saw here and would like to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me across all social media channels. Those links are down in the description below. And if you enjoy movie reviews and movie-themed cocktails, be sure to check out my website, martinishot.blog. Until next time, thank you again for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Live deliciously, but please remember to drink responsibly.